reduced them and laid siege to their fortress without loss of time. After 15 days, they surrendered, though the Muslims at first intended to inflict some severe punishment on them. They contented themselves by banishing the Bani Kanuka. The had now behaved in the same way as Bani Kanuka. The Kanuka. They had likewise knowingly and publicly disregarded the terms of the charter. The Prophet sent them a message similar to that which was sent to their brethren. The Kanuka, then, relying on the assistance of the hypocrites' party, returned for a defiant reply. After a siege of 15 days, they sued for terms. The Muslims renewed their previous offer, and the Jews of An-Nadir chose to execute Medina. They were allowed to take with them all their movable property, with the exception of their arms, before leaving Medina. They destroyed all their dwellings in immovable property, and arms which they could not carry away with them were distributed by the Prophet with the consent of the Ansar and the immigrants. And principle was henceforth adopted that any acquisition not made in actual warfare should belong to that state, and that its disposal should be left to the discretion of the ruling authorities. Almighty Allah said, "And there is also a share in this booty for the poor immigrants who were expelled from their homes and their properties, seeking bounties from Allah and to please Him, and helping Allah, helping His religion and His Messenger Muhammad. Such are indeed the truthful to what we say. And those who before them had homes in Al-Madinah and had adopted the faith, love those who immigrate to them and have no jealousy in their breasts for that which they have been given from the booty of Bani and Nadir, and give them immigrants preference over themselves, even though they were in need of that. And whosoever is saved from his own covetousness, such are they who will be the successful." The expulsion of Bani an-Nadir took place in the 4th year of the Hijrah. The remaining portion of this year and the early part of the next were passed in repressing the hostile attempts of the nomadic tribes against the Muslims, and inflicting punishment for various murderous forays on the Medinite territories. Of this nature was expedition against the Christian Arabs of Dumat al-Jandal, a place about 7 days' journey to the south of Damascus, who had stopped the Medinites' traffic with Syria, and even threatened a raid upon Medina. These marauders, however, fled on the approach of the Muslims, and the Prophet returned to Medina. After concluding a treaty with a neighboring chief, to whom he granted permission of pasturage in the Medinite territories. Enemy's army, headed by Abu Sufyan, marched towards Medina. In the same year, the enemies of Islam made every possible attempt to stir up the tribes against the Muslims. The Jews also took an active, if hidden, part in those intrigues. An army of 10,000 well-equipped men marched towards Medina under the command of Abu Sufyan. They encamped near Mount Uhud, a few miles from the city. The Muslims could gather only an army of 3,000 men, seeing their inferiority in numbers on the one hand, and the turbulence of the hypocrites within the town on the other. They preferred to remain on the defensive. They dug a deep moat around the unprotected quarters of Medina and encamped outside the city with a trench in front of them. They relied for safety of the other side upon their allies, the Qurayza, who possessed several fortresses at a short distance towards the south and were bound by the compact to assist the Muslims against any raiders. These Jews, however, were induced by the